way ahead of us. Oh my goodness. Well, we have a conversation ready for you. I'm Augie at the Edge, and on the phone to be interviewed is Alex Solis from Solis Uncovered. Uh, Thanks for joining into this conversation, or at least listening to it. We're going to make arrangements for having you to actually call and talk about our shows live. But if you want to be Skyped, you may be able to do that as well. You can always say you were Skyped at the Edge if we do that. Nonetheless, Alex is in Puerto Rico now, and he wants to tell us the great advantage of the tax haven of Puerto Rico. Don't be ready to catch the paper towels. Oh no, that was the past president. Throw at Puerto Ricans and his love for Puerto Rico. Some people think he mocked Puerto Rico, but what's the story on that, Alex?
Well, this is a great place, man. It really opened my mind of what Puerto Rico is, and I really want to comment on. Let's start with that. So we have Donald Trump, the president of the United States, throwing paper towels out to people. The media made it look like it was a stunt by Donald Trump. Maybe his politicalness is a little weird for most people, but he wasn't. His intentions weren't to belittle the people. The people who are belittling Puerto Rico is CNN, MSNBC, Fox, everyone who reported on the.
You're sounding like Trump.
That's fine. That's fine. But it's the truth. I'm a Puerto Rican. I'm sticking up for my country. My country's America, and this is also my country too. I guess I'm a dual citizen in a way now. But I'm gonna move here. This place is safe. It's one of the safest places in the world. The media made it look like these people are starving and dying. Now, with Trump throwing paper towels, like these people need paper towels. They don't need paper towels. There's plenty of paper towels here, and we don't even really don't need them. I mean, that was just a horrible stunt by the media, and
I noticed there was people from CNN who were throwing the towels.
No, they had the president throw the towels so they can make fun of him.
So they said, Donald, we're going to have you throw paper towels at the people, and the people are going to love that, right?
No, that wasn't the goal. I think the goal was, let's make Puerto Rico look desperate. Let's make them look like they're starving. Now, as you can see in the background, there's nobody starving here. I'm in a hotel resort, the Hilton. Obviously, it's a little upper class, but this is a middle class country or island. Everybody's middle class here. There's none of that.
Alex, let me interrupt you a second. I get that you love Puerto Rico. You didn't realize how much you discovered when you came there, the way you have decided it is. And the impression that I got, I know about Puerto Rico personally because my wife has been there. I have not been there yet, but my wife has been there. She loved going there. She has two nurse friends who were retired from nursing as she is, and they one of them loves Puerto Rico more than the other. The one that loves it more is a Trumper, and the one that doesn't is a Trumper. But it's not that she doesn't love it. The other one's Martha and one's Emma, and they've talked about their family members, how they survived the hurricane, and one of them lives in the mountains, who has a little money, had a generator, and the last major storm got through it fairly well. Was not hooked up to water because nobody had water. They have mountains, remember? They're not flat like Florida and other places, the Midwest and so forth. But Puerto Rico is attractive to some degree because it has the economic thing of the tax write-offs and the tax things like that. It's considered a tax haven, but not so much because there's a 10-year wait to bring money there, and you're going to avoid the capital gain tax before you can get the money written off.
But remember, you live here, you're tax-free.
Well, they're not entirely that way because whenever there is a tax that can be imposed, who imposes that tax? The IRS.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
There's a tax they call the California tax, and it's California tax is one that catches people. It's a state tax, and all states and commonwealths are under that tax.
Yes, but it's totally different here. There's 0% capital gains tax, 0% dividends tax, 0. That doesn't change. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're a Puerto Rican resident, it's zero. Obviously, you have to wait. If you made the money here, it's zero. If you made the money in America and you're just trying to cheat the system, obviously there's a little loophole. Maybe you have to beat it, the 10-year rule. But it's only 5%. It's not bad.
Mm-hmm. Well, it isn't terribly bad compared to some other things, but the capital gains tax truly is not as bad from my perspective in terms of owning real estate. And I've had a fair amount of ownership of real estate, so I've been able to avoid capital gains other ways through trades and things like that. So this ball game's played in different ways. This country does not depend on a capital gains tax. We make money. Every stock transaction is going to come up with charging a penny on every single transaction. That don't sound like much, but it does produce a lot of revenue. It's not a big burden to people selling stocks that way. It's not a 15% or anything like that. It's a small tax, like the 15% is, I think, currently the capital gains tax. But even the current capital gains tax in the United States, not Puerto Rico, is such that you can down the road quite a ways. You can defer it different ways. So there's a lot of, but you're one to become a stockbroker in Puerto Rico, and then maybe something that'll really work out well for you. You've indicated to me you're going to move there. You're not just talking about it. You intend to actually move. And I think probably if you're happier in a certain place over another, all the more power to you. You know, I'm not telling you to stay someplace where there's questionable futures, and there's some argument that the United States is not over the hump and the mess. It's not just the coronavirus; it's the corporate dominance, and the country's literally falling apart. The infrastructure has been ignored. It was ignored by Donald Trump. It was not done sufficiently under Obama, but it was bypassed and ignored completely by Donald Trump. So when Donald Trump goes anywhere and throws paper towels at people, it wasn't CNN that made the impression. It was Donald Trump that made the impression of mocking people, and that was the take that I had. I didn't need CNN to tell me that was their intention. Donald Trump threw the paper towels, but nonetheless, with all that said, if you find a place to live that makes your life better, all the better for you. The good thing about Puerto Rico also is its proximity to South America and to the areas of investment there. There's a future there. What the environment's going to do to the future, take a look at Texas, Republican Texas. Republicans can be barely, people in Texas barely won in the last election. So Puerto Rico doesn't have that problem, but if they decide to become a state, they're going to be part of the whole machinery called the United States. So what is it you like particularly about Puerto Rico when you walk around? Where do you like to go the most? What particular sites or situations you like besides the money?
Well, I only been here for less than a week. About 4 days. But I've been in San Juan. I haven't discovered the whole Puerto Rico yet. But the best places are the restaurants. The restaurants are very beautiful, man. You go in like even a small mom and pop shop. They make it look like a rainforest cafe, like in Orlando. Like they have, it's extremely beautiful, man. And the streets, the way the roads are and everything, it's just perfect. It's very different than America. America, you have 2 lanes everywhere. Puerto Rico, there's not that many 2-lane highways or streets, and there's really no speed limit here, and there's no traffic enforcement as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to get a ticket here at all. If you get a ticket here, that's crazy. There's no police. There's no police hunting you. I've noticed that's the biggest difference between America and Puerto Rico. The police here do their job, and that's it. They don't hunt. They're not hunters. They're not a perversion of the system. You do your job. You do your part in your society. You keep away from drugs and all that stuff. You'll never ever see a cop. Even if you speed, even if you're drive fast in your car, you'll never see a cop. A cop will never pull you over. In America, you leave your house in the middle of the night to go for McDonald's. The cop pulls you over and says, "Why are you traveling at 2 a.m.?" Here, there's none of that. it's like illegal here to harass people. The biggest difference, I'm telling you, is the police. You feel trapped in America. You feel coming here, you're like, wait a minute, I'm okay. I'm a true free citizen.
Well, you do have to admit to your audience that in the United States, you live in Bradenton, Florida. Some people call it Braden, Tucky, and they call it that because the people are not very um, educated as a people generally, and the police are notoriously bad and harmful to people. But that's an American condition. If you're a person of color, if you're brown or nearly brown or very brown or even black, then your possibilities of being harassed, as you put it out, by the police are much higher. Yet
And home.
today, this is an example of something. It isn't just black, but it's white people. And let's talk about the United States in terms of police harassment. I've got a guy who has worked for me for 15 years, does remodeling and repair. And I was picking him up at his place, which is a rundown house that he inherited from his mother, but he owns it. His only problem is paying his taxes, getting enough money to pay his taxes and utilities. But this one morning, I picked him up about a week ago, and I'm driving, and there's three cars who turned the lights on. They're black SUVs, and the lights are in the grills. You're not on top of the thing, not the pinball machines on top. But these lights start flashing and reap, 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 reap. And I'm saying, what the hell is this? This is like 10 o'clock in the morning. And so I pull over, and the guy gets alongside. You pull in into the parking lot. So all these three vehicles pull in. And the guy comes up to me and says, so you're a Uber driver, right? And I says, wrong. No, I'm not a Uber driver. And my worker, because of the virus, he sits in the back seat. He's not always as clean as he should be, but he's a hell of a good repair person. Very hard to find good repair people in Florida, in Sarasota, where I live. But nonetheless, this went on, and I got a little more questioning, and so you could tell they were interested. They made him get out, and he gets his first name is James. I won't tell you any more than that. But he got testy and was starting to yell. I says, James, just be quiet. Let them talk. Let them tell you what this is about. I really don't get this. And we went through, he went some more on that. And then they come to me, said, would you mind letting us search your car? I says, yes. I don't mind that at all if you don't leave anything behind. And that meant don't try to set me up with a crime that I end up having to fight to defend myself for, because you lie to the public and you get by with it legally. Cops are allowed to lie to you on anything to get you convicted of something. And there is a law to do that. That's what people don't realize. And there's a lot of things that the United States is suffering from, is this thing you're talking about, the harassment of the police. And I think we told a story about your situation some years ago, not that many years ago, when you worked at McDonald's, and how they set you up in a sting with a bicycle, and you end up spending a month in jail over that. How much was that?
Felony. They gave me my without a record. I had no previous criminal history besides a marijuana charge, and
Right.
that was. Well, I get the marijuana charge after. I didn't have a previous criminal history before that. It's bad. I had one argument with my kid's mother. That was the only time I've ever been arrested. And they put a bicycle in front of my apartment, and the same address. They put the same address was on my ID. I just wasn't smart enough to fight it, and they put a felony on me because I turned a police officer. I worked with Internal Affairs, which I kind of regret. Working with Internal Affairs. I really regret it because it really hurt me bad in my record. Mm-hmm. But that situation wouldn't happen in Puerto Rico. And that's the main thing the media and the world needs to know. I mean, this place is a safe.
Well, I think your point of blaming the media discourages knowing. You need to say, if the media got it wrong with the paper towels, what did the media get right about it? It's not about somebody's personality or somebody's preferential president. It's about the people in the media saying, we're going to tell all of the story, not part of the story. So, the propaganda by the Republican Party right now is such that they deliberately cut off conversation if it goes in the direction they don't like, and that's when I see media acting. But I will never blame the media. I'll always blame the politician who wants power over the people. So I will always blame that person. America is in a problem because we're going through a period of the virus, but we're also going through a period of people being not unemployable because of automation. And automation, we had automation in a way when we had slavery. White people could watch black people work, and those were their machines, human machines. They built the Washington D.C. They built uh, big buildings in New York. Black people did that, and yet it was a black engineer that designed Washington D.C. A French designer built all of or designed the buildings of the old buildings of Washington D.C. built by Jefferson.
You have margaritas?
Yes. Did you want to order food as well?
No, just a margarita. Is that mine?
No, that's all here. Those are chips.
Oh, that's okay.
Well, I won't have a margarita because I'm not some. I drink red wine. That's about all I.
Yeah, I have. I figured I have a drink while we're on the show on the beach.
But you want to sell Puerto Rico, and now what is the population of Puerto Rico? I understand it's about 5 million people or something like that. Is that right?
Oh, I can't pay cash for it.
No, it has to be room charge or credit card.
Oh, okay, then no, it's okay.
No?
That's okay.
All right.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't know the population, but it's definitely a dense city. It's very very packed. I mean, it looks like what I'm seeing from the maps. It looks like half of Puerto Rico is a city, the other half is a village style place, small town place. But it's everywhere it's rated, more safer than any U.S. city.
Much safer. Much safer.
Yes, and this is not me saying. This is all these, studies done case studies by colleges and all this stuff.
And the media.
And the thing is, what I believe is the media treats Puerto Rico like a second class place. It doesn't treat it like it's part of America. I don't want to make the media the bad guy here because they're not. But I just think that the world needs to know that Puerto Rico is much safer.
I think, Alex, Vieques is a good example of the situation. We talked about that on the phone last night, I think. And Vieques was a bombing range. And when Vieques, and I talked to my wife about this because she was there 2 or 3 times, traveled all over. She liked Puerto Rico. She likes going back. I've never gone with her, but it sounds interesting. But you have to fly for how long did it take you to get there by air?
2 hours.
Yeah, see, that's 1,000 miles or more. So it is straight, but because you're going over the sea, over the ocean, but this Caribbean, but nonetheless, it's a ways. So you can't just drive there one time. You can't. This year is an interesting year because of the polar vortex, which is this huge front of cold air that hit the United States and Texas in particular. And here's an example of a state that stayed independent of the electric grid, not needing the federal government, so they thought, at cheap rates, no regulation, no oversight of what they did. Gee, the corporation can do anything they want. They can screw up the water, they can screw up the electric, they can screw up anything, and nobody will make them pay a price for it. Well, this time that may not be the case. All of them, it's called ERCOT, ERCOT, the governing body of the Texas utility. I think 2 or 3 cities that are not part of that electric grid that is Texas, and I think El Paso was one of them. But the point is, those cities that were not part of the electric grid of Texas were part of the national grid. They had no problem, none. They had electric, they had water, they had all of it. And this thing of going it alone, ignoring the federal government, was extremely costly. And now they're probably Texas barely went for Trump, the Republicans in the last election, barely. They're going to go Democratic this time across the board. They're all going to get fired. And that is what you have to have is representation. In terms of Puerto Rico, you want you may have this advantage of tax haven, but you also want an advantage of having people represent you in the government that ultimately controls you. What is it you call it? It's a commonwealth, the
Yes.
commonwealth of the United States. That doesn't make you free of the United States. You're kind of in a curious advantage on the one hand, like Texas was until people discovered what they had was not good in a very disastrous way. People died. Haven't found all the dead yet, frozen to death, drowned in their and things like that. It's like a hurricane in the wintertime that happened to Texas. That vortex affected Florida when it was affecting Texas. It was, I think, the temperatures. You were here at that time. Temperatures stayed pretty cold for this time of the year, but they did stay cold, and they were cold this morning. It was chillier this morning here. So you have advantages and you have disadvantages. I believe in the federal government, and I believe in it because the representatives are elected, and they will understand your needs and represent you, or you fire them to get rid of them if you have a decent election system. That conversation we're going to have, I think, down the
But
road.
but what we need to think about is Puerto Rico is almost perfectly run in a way. The government, maybe the government needs a little, maybe the government here is a little crooked. I don't know, but there, I mean, things are run smoothly here. There's no corruption in the police. From what I see, like terrorizing the people. Maybe they're getting paid off by the cartels. I don't know, but there's no corruption in the police like America. There's no.
Well,
Uh,
they're not on a border. The drug cartel is not on a border to use borders to move stuff illegally. They have to do it by plane, pretty much, or they have to take a long trip in a boat. So when you go 1,000 miles in a boat trying to deal in drugs, kind of hard to make it work. So you've got that kind of protection. So the drugs don't corrupt your police force, which is what
or
I do think is part of our problem here in the United States. Drug laws make the police corrupt, to
yeah,
me,
it's
more
and
than.
the electric grid and the cell phone grid here is perfect. The cell phone grid here is actually better than the states.
Well, they're more like a separate country, and they probably look at South America a little bit because they're not. I don't know if there's. How far are you from South America? Do you know?
I'm not sure, but it's probably a 2 hour flight, 3 hour flight.
Is it 3 hours or is it that far? I don't know, but that would be interesting to know. So the glory of Puerto Rico is the freedom you feel. The temperatures are good, even if you have a hurricane there, because you have the mountains. The mountains have water in them naturally, natural springs. And this one fellow, as I think I mentioned, touched on a little bit, he had a mountain house, nice mountain house up there, and he had a generator, a good one. And when his water got cut off by the storm, by the hurricane, he just simply ran a pipe from a natural spring and got his water that way. So it's there's something beautiful about that when you have a mix of a strong urban area such as San Juan, and you have a good agricultural rural area as well. You have nature all around you, and you don't lose that. If you keep that, you have the best of society. So it's a nice microcosm. I agree with you.
Yes, the social distancing here is to the max. It's not like there's no lax laws here either. That's another good thing, and the virus will be eradicated here fast. I say another couple months there'll be no virus here. By the way the Puerto Ricans have this set up, beautiful systems in place where they can run businesses and keep businesses clean and safe. Every store, everywhere you go to, if you enter, you have to wash your hands. They force you, and
Wow,
it's every
that,
single place. Doesn't matter
that's
if
it.
it's
No kidding.
yeah,
They wait.
every single
Do
one.
they have? How do you how do you wash your hands going in?
Boatload of sanitizer. I mean, it's powerful stuff. Like they douse it.
Uh huh. Well,
Some
that's
there's like man-made sinks in front of like a man-made station in front of every door, and they lock the doors so you can't just walk in.
so they use a key to unbolt it, huh?
Yeah, so you have to wait for permission. The worker
Wow.
comes almost every store and restaurant. The worker comes in, opens the gate, lets you in. well, before they let you in, they take your temperature and force you to wash your hands in sanitizer.
That is impressive. So that's control. That's a good thing. That's a really there is what they call UK variant on the virus that they think is going to cause a spike again in April and in a month or so from now because it's going to kick in and it's going to be not a good thing. But looks like Puerto Rico has got the handle on it.
Yeah, and yeah, you can't enter unless you can't enter the country unless you attest that you took a coronavirus test. I mean, they don't ask for the results, but I mean, you have to promise that you did take the test and the test is positive. I mean, test is negative.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't, you have to sign a paper. You have to sign a waiver saying that I'm going to quarantine if I didn't take the test, or if I'm not going to take the test. I still have to sit inside for 14 days wherever I'm lodging. They make
What
you
airline?
sign
What airline did you use?
Spirit.
Oh, Spirit. What airlines go in there besides Spirit?
I'm pretty much all of them. I think I'm not sure, but you have to sign the declaration of travel. That's one thing Puerto Rico doesn't play. No matter what airport, whatever you come in, you have to sign that declaration of travel here.
Well, speaking of traveling, my granddaughter is waiting for a flight to go to Japan from Switzerland. She's been in Switzerland for a year, and she just ended her au pair existence working in this family. Lovely situation. But she decided to think that three children are too much for her. So she instead of doing 2 years, she did. The people hated. They absolutely loved her, but she cut it off and she moved out. She needed to get away from the children. It just and I guess the children were kind of loud. But she's going to go to Japan, and she got held up with Japan shutting the door on people coming into Japan because the Olympics are going to come to Japan, and they don't want to lose that. But they're trying to make sure they do it right. And Japan's a very controlled society. The athletes all have to be tested, all of that sort of thing. But you have these countries and these commonwealths such as Puerto Rico are in a very interesting predicament. Japan's not that physically big as a country, but and neither is Puerto Rico. So these countries have a degree of more control. The United States is way widespread, and you've got states that are dying off with nobody living there, such as I think North Dakota, after the oil boom died, everybody moved out. And now Texas lost their tourist industry pretty much. It all came to Sarasota. Yeah, it came to Florida, and so Florida's benefiting from the cold that hit Texas. And so the people, there's a lot of ex Puerto Ricans living in Florida now. In fact, I put in an air conditioning system in one of my rental units, and the guy that was working there, he's from Puerto Rico. He's been here a few years, and he's trying to learn the air conditioning trade. But so there's a lot of ex Puerto Ricans who, for one reason or another, need a job, couldn't get a job. So you're gonna try to make it on. You're gonna work restaurants when you decide to move in there.
Yeah,
Or you,
once I get my Series 6 license, but I'll have that within a month or two. I was supposed to get it in January, but I put it on hold so I go on vacation. And then so I'm gonna get that Series 6 license. I'll just come here and I'll find a job as a broker.
Mhm.
There's tons of jobs for brokers here. I mean, this is where you get it. This is where you become a broker. I
Really?
mean, yeah, it's just a flood. I mean, it's a massive place for stock traders. This is where stock traders trade. Oh, also, I want to know about one note about Puerto Rico. The cars here. Everybody has nice cars.
Everybody what?
Has nice cars here.
Nice cars. You mean
Yeah, no matter
expensive
what
cars?
neighborhood. You
Expensive
don't.
cars or what?
No, not expensive, but all the cars made from 2000 and up. You don't see nobody with an 80 or 1990.
I see. So no rundown cars.
No rundown cars at all. Most people, are driving, brand new cars. Not Lamborghinis, of course, but you got a brand new Toyota, brand new Dodge, brand new Kia. Not that many Dodges here. A lot of Dodge vans, but America has more Dodge Chargers and there's more Dodge in America. There's really no Dodge. There's more
Jap- Japanese cars mostly.
Yes, cars I don't even Suzuki's, Suzuki
Hmm.
Jeeps and stuff.
Right. Well, that's true. When you go to South and Central America, you discover that there is the same thing. So, are we going to be able to make an announcement of a change from Facebook advertising to Patreon or something like that? Are we going to be able to announce that to our fans?
Well, we will be on several apps, not only Patreon. We're gonna go on all the apps that we can and see which one we do good at, because all this is new. All these new apps came out because Facebook's censoring us, and Facebook really put a dent on the show.
Hmm.
But the
Well,
show doesn't.
we were at 100,000 viewers at one point. You reported, and so we're going to try to get back to that level if we can. And the best way to do is go on these other less censored places. That if you're going to be on something that's called a media platform, which is what these apps really are, media platforms, then you can't have the constant concern that the uh, that media platform is going to be pulled out from under you through censorship.
Yeah, it's a joke of what's going on with Twitter and everybody. But I mean, it is what it is. It's their companies, it's their business. They can tell us what we can say and not say on their company.
Well,
You know,
they're saying what they're doing, what they're way around the whole thing in the First Amendment. They're saying they're a publishing vehicle, but they're not the press vehicle. They're saying they're not the press, and that's where I think the argument's going to move. Are they press or are they not? And if they're not, then they're going to be limited in what they can do, and that's what they know is coming. So I think that's where we have to become. I think we're part of the press, so we're going to have to be a little more careful how we advertise. And I think we're going to, like you're doing right now, educating people about Puerto Rico, some very interesting things to let people know about, where there's an opportunity that people may not be aware of. The brokering, the environment, the whole nature of Puerto Rico becoming this island of business and of opportunity.
yes, this is the land of opportunity here, and this is the entrepreneur's dream. I see. You can. I mean, you can. You got a lot of foot traffic. You start a cafe or a shop or anywhere, you have tons of foot traffic, and these are not homeless people walking in front of your stores. The
Hmm.
homelessness here, really, I've seen one homeless person since I've been here, and
Hmm.
I've been to almost all of San Juan in a way, not really, but I almost been to all of San Juan, and I
Hmm.
only seen one homeless person, and he's one. I don't even know if he's homeless, but he was a beggar. I seen him today, but that was it. And in Florida, every street there's one.
Well, it's pretty bad here. They sleep under the bridges. They sleep in corners. They sleep everywhere, and they're always trying to find a place to sleep because they get harassed all the time by the wonderful police of Florida. So yeah, well, I
Being
think we've kind of explored it, and if you found all the paper towels that Donald threw at the people, maybe they gave them away as special mementos of a deluded president.
I think they kept them as a collectible because we didn't need paper towels. I mean, everything's great. I think
Well,
Puerto Rico had a tough time.
we were going to do the toilet paper sales, but they didn't come to fruit. I did have, or you gave me someone gave me the ones on George Bush that were put out. So, but anyway,
Oh, we will have a gift shop for the store soon.
okay.
I need to get with you, and we need to talk about how we're going to do it and how we're going to split the money and all that. We have to make a contract because obviously it's going to be a business, so that will come to fruition. We just
As
it's
far
I
as
think
I'm
it's
concerned, Alex, if you want to include me in some way, I'm fine with that. But let's make this thing work and let this audience know that we're serious about it, and we're going to get the voice that they need to hear and take part in, call the edge, and let's make that happen.
definitely.
So I'm going to say goodbye and buenas noches. I guess it's evening there. Is it? Are you on Mountain Time or are you on Central Time?
Atlantic time, so I'm an hour ahead of you.
Then you're on Central Time. No,
Yes,
you're Atlantic Time. You're east of us, so you're further. Oh yes, that's right. You are
I
ahead
believe.
of us.
Yeah, I believe I'm an hour ahead.
Yeah. Well, you enjoy yourself. We'll talk again soon, and let's see how we're going to do this Skyping long distance on a regular basis what the audience is going to want and expect from what we gave before. But we've done some interesting things, and we'll do commentary on the people that can't talk about about the new government in a positive way. But I think we're going to discuss stolen elections and how many there have been over the last 100 years, or at least in the last 20. I think there's more recent time the elections. It's alleged that elections have been stolen from different ways. So, but we'll talk about that down the road, and you just keep enjoying yourself and try to get to bed so you can get up in the morning.
Yeah, yeah. I had a late night last night, very late night. I had fun.
I guess you did. All right. Well, Alex, it's great talking to you. I'm glad you got this new perspective, and we'll make this happen. So,
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. Greetings from Puerto Rico, man. Yeah, we'll be.
okay. You take care now.
Yeah. Thank you, Augi, man.
All right.
Bye bye.